Hello, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, I'm excited to be here with wonderful guests for the next session at the MEGAMIGS. Some of us are live in Quebec, but some of us are everywhere around the world. So excited to jump in. If you're just joining us today, right now, let me just read exactly the title of this panel so I don't mess it up. We are at the time to talk about watchability for the win, designing for streaming and spectator engagement. And I couldn't be more pleased to be joined by experts in the field. My name is Miss Harvey, also known as Stephanie Harvey. Used to be a professional gamer, also was a game designer at Ubisoft Montreal. Currently working in esports full-time for Madison Square Garden as their director of development of Chronologic Gaming. But today is not about me. It's about my three professional panelists. So let's just start with the person on my right. I have no idea if that's the person on your right. But let's start with Nicolas Epère. He is the owner of Watch Games, currently in Montreal. How are you, Nicolas?
I'm fine in Montreal. Thank you for having me.
Super excited to have you on board. Before we jump in, can you to the other guests, can you let us know a little bit your tiny background? You've been in gaming for a little bit. Where do you come from?
Yeah, I come from France. Sorry about that. I'm living in Quebec for 15 years now. Been working in industry for 35 years. So 8-bit, 16 bits, and blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to streamable games.
Yeah, you've been really at I would say like the beginning and now the future, if I want to call watchability the future, it's more like the present. We don't know what the future is, but thank you for joining us. Our second guest and our second panelist here. I'm gonna go again on the I can see now who's next to me because I'm looking at the stream. So under me, there is Phil Duncan, currently live from, I was about to say the Europe, but there was a little bit of a Brexit situation that happened recently. So let's just
my heart.
Let's just say the UK. You are one of three game developer at Ghost Town Games, notably worked on Overcooked games. How are you, Phil?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I'm okay. It's 6 o'clock here, so
yeah.
I'm just about clocking off. No, I'm gonna keep my brain sharp for the next hour, but after that, I'm completely gone.
You know what? I'm gonna put you right under the bus. Can you? I have my drink here, my tea. Can you raise your hand and show us what? It's 5 o'clock somewhere in the world, you said, and there it is. There it is, guys.
It's actually a Granville Island, so it's a Vancouver glass. Is that okay? What do we say?
Perfect. It's perfect. We love it. We love it. But yeah, so excited. This is the kind of panel it's going to be today, guys. And last but not least, we have Hal Milton, a design director at Pipeworks Studios. So happy to have you as well.
Thank you so much for having. This is great to be here.
Yes, and just like I asked, I kind of skipped that for you, Phil. I was so excited to talk about the beer, but just like I asked Nicolas, why don't you give us a little bit of a tiny timeline to where you're from and what have you worked on recently?
I'm intensely old, and I've been doing this for about 25 years. So I started off at Origin Systems working on stuff like Wing Commander and Ultima Online, and went on to work on a bunch of stuff and until I was taken to Pipeworks. And Pipeworks is where I've been for the last few years, working on both interactive streaming titles as well as a host of other games. But yeah, my career has taken me to work with or for, let's see, it's EA, Microsoft, Sony, Sega, Capcom, Konami, on and on and on. So it's been a really fun journey to date. And at Pipeworks, we've been having a lot of fun trying to figure out what we're going to do next.
Amazing. And Phil, I feel like I undersold you just because I didn't give you the chance to like kind of tell us about your background. So I'm going to rewind a little bit and let you take the space as well.
Okay, how far back do we want to go? Can we just do it from this morning, or do we have to go?
Yeah, that sounds great.
No, so I don't have quite as colorful a history as these guys. but I used to work for Frontier Developments in Cambridge as a designer there, and I worked there for about 8 years. Working on various mad titles, some of the Lost Ones games, Connectimals. I've forgotten it. I've completely wiped that from my brain. And I started Ghost Town Games with Ollie about 5 years ago, and we obviously released Overcooked. And since then, we've released Overcooked 2, All You Can Eat, and we're just working on our brand new title at the moment, which I can't talk about, but I can hint at and say that it is very, very good. You're gonna like it.
If it's just as good, or if it's better than Overcooked, then it's gonna be a masterpiece. Fun fact: it was my first date with my current boyfriend on Overcooked. So
hey, and you're still together. That's great. And
we're still together. I know, it was like the ultimate test right away. We just we can play Overcooked together. This is already meant to be. Okay, so today's topic is about watchability. I think that you're all extremely qualified. Some of the I would say the pioneers in that space, just because of the work that you guys have done. And I myself has been a streamer for close to 10 years now, and also competing in esports, which is primarily about competition and watchability. But what I want to hear from you is, what is watchability for you? Because even if we Google watchability, it's not that clear. It's still a concept that is very, I want to say, new, not for us four, but for some people in the industry. So why don't we start with Nicola? Nicola. And I never know if I need to swap my accent to say your name or not, but why don't we start with Nicola? What is watchability for you?
Watchability. It's funny because us, we are saying often watching is playing. And even if us, we're trying to push it even more, you know, when you are watching something and it makes you play, you are already in the game. So if we come back even to trailers in the video games to sell a plain old box game, if you are playing in your head, you are already playing the game, but you are watching a streamer. So maybe it's not such a new concept, but obviously game streaming and live game streaming puts the whole thing to another level because there are communities. And on our side, we are much more thinking about like watching together and doing stuff together. So maybe there are like some segments, and maybe we focus on one. Like there is the watchability in the sense of we can use the streaming platforms or the fact that people are watching to promote a game. But some games are even more fun when they are watched together. Maybe horror games. And maybe some games, like what we're trying to do, are played together and being watched together. So maybe we could separate in segments the topic.
That's very interesting. I really like what you said about watching is playing. I don't think I've ever heard this before. And this is the kind of moment, if I was at the O's, I would write that on the Post-it, put it on my screen, and like always keep thinking about that, because I think that is very, very important. Hal, what do you think? What is watchability for you?
Watchability is, we've been doing a lot of work on that, and for us, it's about the moment, and then it's about after that moment, why people return to it, why people come back to it. So there's both the experience of being in a crowd, and then there's the anticipation or the lure to be in that audience. And what we've been doing, like at Pipeworks, we started with the direct streamer audience connection with a game called Super Fight, in which folks could have a little discussion, folks could vote against it. But then we recently released this experiment on Facebook we worked on with our partners at GenVid Tech called, it was a massively interactive live event called Rival Peak. And Rival Peak had an unbound audience interacting with a headless streaming client at the same time to push a live 12-week story that played out with weekly episodes. So to us, we were trying to explore watchability for why am I there in the stream? Why do I care to revisit that stream? And then what are the actions that keep me drawing in other people to help play it with me? But all of that kind of is a whole new domain outside of what's interesting about a streamer and their audience working together. And for that, we've been looking to more traditional influences. So theater has been doing this for quite a while. and has wrestling, which I adore. And most major sports and most pantomime, everything has this ease of bringing the audience in as an active participant, moderator, judge, etc. And wherever that's the smoothest and the crowd feels they're able to touch that streamer, basically get on stage and crowd dive and be seen, that's where you get people then hungering to clamor over each other to make that chat meaningful for them and them alone. I apologize, I talk forever.
No, it's good. We have an hour and a half, so we got to feel it somehow. So I really like the comparison that you've been talking about, for example, wrestling. I've been watching wrestling my whole life, and I never thought about how close of a medium it can be to games now, because it's such an important part of watching that sport.
There's literally moments in some wrestling divisions where they have bring your weapon night and people throw weapons into the ring. So everybody who thinks they've been innovating, we should be looking at like 1954 replay footage of these guys. And we see the crowd being purposefully engaged over time for effect, so that it's this nice feedback loop that they're as responsible for as the streamer is. There's a great musician out there, Mark Rebellet, who's built an entire streaming community that show up there to have a dialogue while he improvs music for about 2 hours. And that's the kind of relationship we're looking in games to generate, is that improvisational relationship that reinforces the audience and streamer, and if even better, creating frameworks for narrative storytelling that can draw people in for community group fun. Babbling again.
No, it's great. I love it. I panels sometimes they stay here. We're already elevating that panel, like, we're going deep.
Plus a panel with a reference to Marc Rebillet is a good panel.
It's a good panel. Phil, you also worked on one of the most popular stream game recently. So what is watchability for you?
That's a good question. I mean, it's something that we kind of stumbled into with Overcooked. It's not something we kind of set out to do, but it's something that sort of became quickly apparent when we'd made the game and when we started taking around conventions and started showing it to people. And we'd speak to a lot of people, that managed streamers or managed, YouTube communities, and they all sort of take a shine to the game and would say to us, "Oh, you've hit on something here." And so suddenly it was like us going like, "Oh, really? Oh, I didn't really sort of think of it that way." Because for us, making the game was very much about making a game that we wanted to play. And I guess that kind of feeds into the watchability thing. And there's kind of two threads to it, right? There's kind of people watching the game, and then there's people watching the people watch the game. And that's something that kind of stood out to us almost immediately with Overcooked, is that this is a game where it's almost as enjoyable to watch people playing it as it is to watch what's happening on the screen. So much of the action takes place outside of the game. It's about the interaction between those playing it. So I think that's maybe what's sort of important to us as developers, is trying to play with that relationship that the players have while they're playing the game and how they communicate.
That's brilliantly put. Anyway, I was going to say Phasmophobia is the example I love to give for that too. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. And there is one word we use also, which is a participant. We don't use any more players, but more participants, like you said, Al, about like theater. So we think theater, we think, like for us, we think digital theme park, where we give tools to the streamers and they move around, and so they can move from sub-theater to sub-theater. And in fact, from what you said, we are thinking about a range of interaction intensities. Like you could like just watch, or be like, the captain of the ship, or the chief of the ship, or being only on the cannons or whatever. But so we try to provide that range of interactivity so that people can interact more or less. Like if you see like, a soccer match, or like you said, wrestling, some people will interact a lot at the front rows, and some people would be in the back and maybe throw some items rarely, but not as much as people throwing chairs in the... So that's a part of the new way of thinking about those products.
And I want to underscore that emotional connection. So when you go onto a stream and the streamer is not just connected to the content, but reacting to it so that you get the whole look out, he's got a knife moment that you're trying to engage them with, that's supremely great. And when you watch people getting stressed the hell out, it's really fun to
they
watch.
love it. We just tested a feature where we put the streamer in the game ourselves, and we just added a feature where we detect the mood of the streamer in their webcam. And so depending on the mood, we throw like fireworks, or it throws coins to the audience or stuff like that. And frankly, that's something we tried. I tried it on the weekend, and they love it. And it's a super simple face detection thing where they smile and suddenly there are fireworks everywhere. Like, wow, that's super cool. They want that kind of natural thing where they don't need to spend too much mental energy on what's happening and bring spectacle or a show to the audience.
That's very interesting. I'm someone that's very expressive. I'm surprised and my eyes become so I would always be triggering everything about the camera when I stream. We're talking a lot about streaming. Guys, I know that there's a lot of people who are watching this live directly on the MEGAMIGS app. So if you have any questions, I'm used to that interactivity. So go ahead, ask it just like it's a stream, and I'll be taking the question in chat as well. One thing that I want to ask before we talk about designing for watchability, I want to ask, for you guys, do you believe that, gaming as a media form, or gaming overall games, is like a little bit of what you said, Nicola, it's such a big category now. Do you believe that spectating games, or games that are made for spectator, is its own category, its own media form, and it should be treated that way? Or should all games be treated as watchable, if that makes any sense? And I'm going to let anyone jump in that one.
Yeah, I think to jump in at the kind of, when folks are talking about making games that they want to play, if you create an experience that's not compelling to an individual, then no one's going to want to watch it no matter what. So watchability and playability and interest are all at the core of any experience we build. But where you are correct is that we're at the beginning of figuring out how to tap into an unbound audience that can connect at will to either individuals' experiences or headless experiences that are meant to be a limited time happening or a repeatable happening that they can do together. But yeah, I think that we're going to find that little subgenres will emerge that will only exist thanks to interactive streaming. I'm not as certain that all solo games have to have an inherent. If I had to stream Ghost of Tsushima to really enjoy it, I would be very sad. But it's an incredibly watchable game at the same time, while not ever planning for anything more than that solo engagement.
That's a very good point. I personally sometimes don't want to stream games that are made for streaming, because I just want to be by myself in my little bubble. I don't want to interact with people. So there's something also there to think about when it comes to that. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, just saying that hopefully that what we're going to see, though, is that when people are right now, novelty is kind of the name of the day when it comes to interactive streaming, and any kind of emergent awesomeness that comes out of that is, we're not quite sure how to tap into it. But I think that we are here to stay, in which most entertainment that has an audience function will have either a passive or active component that's interactive in real time, all the way down to watching. That's already Amazon Prime, right? Watching a movie and getting your X-ray view of the info that's going on screen. So, but how it engages that audience to work as a group to manipulate that storyline, we haven't, or the gameplay. I think we've seen some great. I mean, we have great examples here, but I think we are at the very beginning of figuring that shit out.
For sure, a little bit like create your own story books, but as a group. Very good answer. Yeah, go ahead, Nicola.
Yeah, but back to the original question. Maybe it's a new segment, because some games are watchable for other reasons. Like, for example, you would watch like a Valorant or Warzone because you want to improve. So You are watching like a trainer, or you are like a trainee, and so that's a kind of segment. Us, we are looking at the biggest Twitch segment is just chatting, and in that segment, there is like a new trend of like playing with viewers, and actually Twitch created a tag for that, where some streamers are like looking for tools, and they use games as tools to play with their audience. So they would play like obviously the best known games. They would maybe play with their friends a game of Overcooked and share their experience with the viewers, etc. So maybe it's a new area, and yes, there are uses that are more known, and some are for marketing purpose only. But maybe there is a new thing to do. Like it's closer to theater, in fact, and closer to like TV shows and us, for example, the streamers. They say, we will play that once a week. It's like the pre-pub game they would play on Fridays with their audience to relax, chill out, and do cool stuff together. And that's perfectly fine. But so that's another way of thinking about it, in fact. So it's not about levels. It's not about like having a huge content grinding mean. It's more about giving them scenes to have fun together, for example.
Yeah, I like this a lot. And I mean, as a streamer,
I like it.
Yeah, I'm always looking for opportunities to connect with my community, sometimes to not be in a game, because that can be really draining.
Yeah, but it's funny. That's one of the original vision point of the project we are doing. Let's try to design a game where the streamer does not have to play or does not have to use an additional brain to play while speaking with the audience, watching the chat, and talking with the moderator.
Very cool.
That's actually in the slides that we don't show, but and we took the example of someone playing, I don't know, Warzone. I mean, that's crazy. You need to play Warzone competitively. You need to watch the chat, check if you are doing well, play with the mods. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. So in fact, we designed some scenes so that the streamer can even leave the stream. We have a scene where,
that's great.
We have a scene, and in the design pitch, it's the restroom scene, which is like take a break scene. So we have like a scene where it's like a fishing, and all the audience can fish, and the streamer can leave, put a timer. So okay, this is a 5-minute contest or 10-minute contest of fishing, and that's been designed on purpose. Because you cannot stream for 6 hours without taking a break. Makes no sense.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So suddenly the streamer is like a part of the design of the product.
Mental load design for how many things you're doing at once that's actually an amazing point. Because I mean, it's like when you're working on casual games, right? Some people like to decry the audience of casual games or say they're not as smart as no, they're just using 20 to 30% of their attention span, dummy. They're not dumb. They're doing other stuff. So how do you make that experience for 20 to 30% of an attention span actually resonate with them, compel them to keep going? And
exactly.
That's a cool
exactly.
thing.
Sometimes we design some stuff that is so simple that in a normal game everybody would like say, this is not interesting anymore enough, but it's more than enough for that situation. Because it's a simple tool that can create a lot of reactions of exchanges between the audience and the streamer, and that's what they want. That's what they need.
That's very, very good, Phil. Any thoughts on the discussion that just happened?
Yeah, so I'm just writing it all down. This is good stuff.
Yeah,
I will share something with you. Is that at the beginning when we are pitching the game internally for us, I remember we had a slide saying, okay, Sea Raiders is like Overcooked multiplied by Twitch Play Pokemon multiplied by Twitch. That's something we never shared, but that's.
I feel really, really special being with you three right now. There's something happening in this panel. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say it's really fascinating to me because it's not a sort of angle that we take when we're looking at making games. Not to say that it's not like in our minds a little bit. How do people play it? How are they going to communicate? But what I like is it really reminds me of kind of fringe theatre in a way, and that there's lots of people trying lots of different unusual things, and some of it's going to miss and some of it's going to hit and some of it's going to be really palatable, and you'll see it like it taking off. And it sounds like this is that kind of that frontier a little bit at the moment where people are trying to sort of just try things out on the audience, and that sounds really exciting. And
that's
in a way it's kind of Go on.
That's something that same thing we share a lot. It's the design space is huge. You can try crazy stuff, and the simpler the better, because you can try it super fast. Like at some point we added the parrots. Obviously we are doing a parrot game, so we said, let's add parrots just for like cosmetics. And now we are doing parrot races in the game. But that came from the fact that I had parrots, and suddenly I added like some fast pathfinding for the parrots. Like, okay, that's cool. Oh, maybe we could do a race. And now they're crazy with the races, because they are like sharing. There is a share price. They are like faster parrots, bigger parrots. You can slow them down, make them explode, and stuff like that. But yeah, the space is really big there, so that's cool.
I'm still flabbergasted that we were able to make a game like Twitch Plays Marble really popular. So if we can make that happen, like you said, Nicola, that's like at the simplest thing possible. Enter. You don't even control anything, and people are still excited to win these races. So yeah, anything is possible now.
And one title that stands slightly outside of this space but informs it really directly is an experimental title called Blaseball. And if people aren't paying attention to Blaseball, they absolutely should be, because it's all community. It's all community with inferences on this vague set of data they can kind of push, and then they fill in every other bit of lore gap around it, so that we have this kind of live experience that the community feels they're in control of, that's compelling them to gather into clusters of dedicated communities, releasing some of the best video game related music in the world. And I think that there's a lot of lessons for that for interactive streaming content as well, especially when we start looking to how to drag people away from just the moment of being with the streamer and get them into a month of an event that's occurring.
Yeah. Sustainability in watchable games. That's also something that maybe we could approach at some point.
That's fair.
Definitely. Okay, so let's jump into a little bit of more of a design segment. You all three have talked about it a little bit, so we'll try to kind of push the envelope here. But why don't we start with Phil? Phil, you mentioned that when you started designing Overcooked, you started by creating a game that you wanted to play and realized you had something more there by place testing it and showing it to people. At one point during the design process and during the production process, did you swap your mindset to think about that watchability or not? Like, did it become a priority while you made that game?
Yeah, I think there was a kind of a clear point for us. I remember we kind of did set up with the idea that we wanted it to be a game that was really about communication. That a lot of the cooperative aspects of it came from players having to talk to each other while they played it. And one of the sort of early things we hit on with that is that, if you're familiar with Overcooked, players would find themselves getting into a routine. One player would be doing the washing up, one player would be doing the chopping, and suddenly all the communication would end. So that was a real moment for us of like, well, this is something that we wanted to avoid. This is, we want to get people talking while they play it, which I guess sort of feeds into this watchability angle. And so one of the things which I think was the turning point for Overcooked, was that we introduced this more chaotic kitchens that you're playing in. So one of the first levels we actually built that I think sort of personifies everything about Overcooked is the pirate ship level. So we had this thing where somebody was chopping and somebody was doing the washing up, and they would get completely into that rhythm, and then we'd slide the kitchen across, and suddenly you're nowhere near the sink and you're nowhere near the chopping boards, and you can either just run blindly and try and figure it out yourselves, or you can shout to your friend and say, hey, I've put a pot on the stove. It's about to boil over. You're now the closest person. You need to do something. So there was a lot of that kind of feeds into cooperative designing, I think, is about trying to, kick players out of a routine. That's maybe one of the sort of pillars of Overcooked.
Oh, I love this. This is awesome.
That's great. I know that when we have something that we have a title we've been trying to build for a while, but haven't made a lot of progress on. But we took two approaches to trying to think through audience and streaming. And it's different for the massive interactive live events, but for the game, it really is understanding that path that we think people are going to take from viewer, participant, player, streamer. And what we've identified is that most people don't stream. So most people aren't going to end up at that last stage. That's okay. Most people are going to be in the viewer and spectator role. So viewer and participant role. So the viewer is going to come in. Viewer, if they're presented with a simple enough interaction or simple enough path to interact, they become a participant. If that participant path has something that leads them to want to get the game for deeper involvement with either the streams they're seeing or their own personal progress, then they become players of that experience. And then if they're further incentivized for their own personal play, for their overall power gain, et cetera, to stream, then we may convert a percentage of those folks into streamers. And that's one path, but keep in mind, everything I just said about there's no actual rule set to that. That's just, you're trying to slice the audience, examine the features that are in the game, and see if they actually do speak to each of those contingents. If your game doesn't support it, don't shoehorn those things in. But if you're explicitly designing for it, I really agree. I think it was mentioned earlier really cleanly that there are viewers, there are participants, and then those people turn into players and streamers. And that path can be as organic as you want it to be. It creates, we like to call it like a frictionless funnel that you can create for folks. Fuck, I sound ugly. I apologize for saying that phrase. That sounds really gross, and I apologize for it, but it's true. It's just trying to get people to see why folks are playing and having fun, why I want to get involved, why I want to get in. So yeah.
I was going to say, like, make
marketing. Yeah, sorry about the phrase.
Steps as small as possible, and I prefer a frictionless funnel. So I'm gonna steal that. It's quite awesome. Nicola, you came in prepared because that question is kind of like your life pretty much right now with your company being named Watchability.
Yeah, the frictionless what we are trying to achieve, and it's that you can join the game right away. We do let you join the game right away on Twitch. There is no game to download. And in the fact is that, so we are trying to remove the last layer of friction, which is I need to install something to play that game with the streamer and in that community. And and for now, we have so many viewers who are asking, where can I get the game? There is nowhere you can get the game. Is there now? It's not a game anymore. It's an event. So it's more like theater, like you said. You don't bring the theater home. The theater happens at that moment. It's so that's the way we are thinking about it. And we removed that install layer. So it's, for us, it's an extension in Twitch. So you just say, I want to join. And we automatically create you a small parrot. So now you are in the world, you are somewhere, you're on the screen in the video, and sure enough, the streamer will click on you and say, oh, welcome. And in 1 second, suddenly you are there, everybody welcomes you, and you keep that character, you will grow it, etc. And like you said, then suddenly you come back to grow that character, you come back to do more stuff. And back, also we have a battle of ships, obviously, in a pirate game. And we are doing a bit like Overcooked. But plus, we have a layer of like watchers that as soon as you joined, we gave you a character, and those have auto attacks. So you don't need to do anything. You will do some damage. Even if it's way less damage or way less actions than the active crew, you are still participating, and you will get a share of XP, a share of the gold, a share of the treasure at the end.
I just joined in the stream.
Yes.
Oh, that's some frictionless funnel.
So you keep that. So you could like be at that level for a week and say suddenly, oh no, I want to do more. Maybe I'll get a parrot. Maybe I will buy that parrot from the in-game store with some bits and have this super fancy, I don't know, purple parrot or a pink parrot. And so like removing those layers and make that funnel continuous. That's really what we're trying to achieve. And so far, so good.
That's really awesome. I feel that companies like you both, unfortunately, feel as a little bit of an issue with this internet. Internet is also past 5 p.m., so sometimes it's taking some breaks. But
the internet is taking a break.
Just get that ready while I just kind of wrap it up with this thought. I feel that your companies right now are really pushing the boundaries of what traditional game development has seen, and that's really awesome to be talking about this, because I remember a long time ago when I was in game design, let's just say these kind of concepts were a lot harder to kind of discussed with other designers and just overall people on the production teams, just because it took a bit for development teams to get there, I feel. But now I feel that you must have full support from your team and in your peers because of just the landscape and where we're at right now. So it's great to see that.
Yeah, and there is a new opportunity. That the magical thing also is the matchmaking is already made. If I join your stream, Stephanie, there are people there and they know you. We don't need to do any matchmaking at all. And that's so that there is already an audience there. So if we can spawn a game in the audience rather than finding an audience for the game, suddenly you are thinking differently.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Don't forget to unmute you, Hal.
My God, it's only 2 years locked down. I can't figure it out. I do want to underscore, like, one of the experiments we did, which was Rival Peak, had also its own kind of in-between layer that Genbit technology was running. So allowing anyone that happened upon the stream, they instantly had an account, and now they're every day can be lured back to follow the story along. And that really is the key, is people being able to discover content that they already see why they're a part of it. They like the perfect examples that have been given on in each instance. But yeah, that's a really fun thing when you show up to an area, something fun happening, and there's a glowy button that says, and then you press that button. It's like, oh shit, I'm part of this, and now your viewer is a participant. And then it's every single value add from there on why they want to keep investing deeply. That's super cool.
You have to wonder what like if Twitch is making games behind the screen, because they should be onto that, because if I was a platform like them, there's no way I wouldn't be thinking about these kind of things, because you guys are really changing the game. Nicola, you have a little bit of a presentation that you've done where you talk about designing for watchability.
Check. Yeah, but for like the point I was making, that we are not even thinking anymore about doing a video game, but we are thinking like a digital theme park. We are building a small Disneyland, and the cool thing about that is that it gives a lot of autonomy to the streamers to move around, and so we gave them tools to poll the audience in real time. Say, okay, do we go do some battles? Do we go paint the flag again? Do we do a parrot race? Do we go fishing, etc.? And also it gives you the ability to design new crazy stuff easily, because you won't break the game by adding a new scene. So we have tons of ideas of scenes I cannot share today, but like that came from us or from the streamers that are easy to test, because we can do a super cheap version of it, a super exaggerated version of it, and try it with some streamers and see what happens. And that's a different way of thinking. It's really like the digital theme park way of thinking.
Right now, I can see that the people at home can see your PowerPoint. So if you want to show anything specific, we're screaming it right now.
Okay. Let me. Yeah, crazy stuff like embrace the platform. We were like. So I need to share my screen, or is it?
No, we can see it right now. You can put it full screen if you want. But so other than that,
I don't know. I was using PDF because it's faster today. But anyway, you get the idea. I think that for example, there was this trend of hot tubs on Twitch. A huge, it was a big controversy, as everything Twitch is. But there, suddenly I saw about making one, and we embraced that, and we gave that in the game. We created a simile hot tub that they could enable with a cheat key. So because we are super careful, and we gave that cheat key to some streamers, and sure enough, they said, "Wow, that's because the way we twisted the whole hot tub thing and making fun of it." And so suddenly the whole audience, as you see on the screen, is in the hot tub with the streamer. And it's them telling us how you should sell that hot tub to the audience.
I see. Yeah.
You need to be super open there, because the ideas can come from everywhere. And so that's one of the lessons maybe. And it's really about like having a good vision, but embracing the flow. Because you know it is like streamers. I don't know, without being caricatural, streamers from like Brazil might be super different from streamers from I don't know the US or Europe on the topics or the mood, etc. Yesterday we had a streamer from Singapore. He's streaming live on the streets and doing crazy stuff. So that's another way of streaming, and so they want those crazy things to share with their audience. So and it's more about thing like there is no gameplay with the tub. It's just that you can activate the tub. And everybody likes it, so stuff like that.
So there's something about being flexible here as well.
You need to be super flexible.
You guys, I don't know if you guys have watched Squid Games, but like within a couple of days, Squid Games was integrated, and all the big streamers kind of lore, whether they did it in real life or whether they played some really scrappy Squid Games like kind of gameplay. And sometimes, you know, it's from the community, but I think there's something to say, like you said, to just have the game and add on the hot tub or add like a new mode, like as fast as possible, just to satisfy that community. And in a game like Overcooked, it might be a little bit more difficult to do these kind of things, but I still feel this is something that if you think about it ahead in the production time, that you could scale up. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's just coming at it from a slightly different angle, isn't it? It's like when you're on the ground doing the kind of just the game for one person kind of view. You know, sometimes when you develop games, you have a sort of a desired player in mind. And then it's about thinking beyond that. And it's thinking, okay, well, who are the people that are going to be friends with that person? Or who are the people that would like to watch that person? So I think it's kind of an interesting, just, I don't know, like there are different ways of approaching it. Maybe that's just the way of thinking about it. Is like I like this idea though of thinking about different audiences as you're building the game, not necessarily focusing on just making a game for yourself. And I think this is kind of touching on what you were saying a little bit about like the difficulty in the past of getting a design team to maybe think about that. Is because a lot of the time when you're working in a big company, the design team tends to be thinking about themselves playing it. Maybe that's unfair, but like to get them to think about like the streamers who are playing it, I certainly from my experience working at a larger studio, that was very hard because very few people I worked with watched streamers say, you know, I'm sure that's changed slightly now. But yeah, to try and get people to think about who is playing your game, who is watching your game, who is watching the people watching you that play their game.
I want to talk more specifically about some of the game mechanics. There's a question, and I see your question, guys. I didn't forget you. There's a question I want to link very soon. But why don't we start with, do you have any example of game mechanics that you think are very cool? I know, Nicola, you mentioned quite a few already. So I'm going to start with Hal. Oh, okay. He's not sure. I'm going to start with Hal. Okay.
I have a 20-year-old cat that if he needs to be picked up, I pick him up.
We understand.
Well, I mean, you know, a lot of it is when you start at the most obvious level, then it's about an audience seeing how they're going to influence themselves and how they are going to be seen, not just by the streamer, but by the other people in the audience, right? The simplest expression of that is somebody doing a sub and seeing the name go up and seeing the little dollar amount and we're doing fantastic. And you know, similar to appearing in a title as a puff, appearing in a title as a thing, having a limited amount of interaction. That's the first and most exciting thing is when you come in and an audience sees at an individual level and a collective level how they're going to push that streamer or game experience. That's a really cool mechanic, and we're seeing for the last probably 8 years of people exploring that. We've seen all the obvious of votes, bets, and those expressions. And we haven't seen as much kind of collective over time. We're strategizing to get to X, Y, or Z together. And I'm looking forward to seeing more tools where that audience comes in with the short-term proposition of how we can immediately affect stuff that leads them into how do we organize as a group to push this thing over time.
Yeah, I've seen this most on advertisement and kind of activation. So I've seen this, for example, I think it was like an Old Spice thing, or there was a camera and the Twitch community had to create like some kind of gameplay with the person in real life. So he was in the forest and they would say like, turn left. And then he would, a little bit like Twitch plays Pokemon, but real life version of it. And I've seen like cars also create kind of like, oh, turn right on a course with Twitch, but that's kind of like the extent. Like I've seen it more for advertisement than for gameplay so far, which is very interesting. Again, money pushing like kind of the boundaries of things. But I think you bring a really good point. I think we're still kind of stagnant on the things that we're doing with chat.
And to get supremely pretentious about that, advertising and marketing sometimes gets in early, especially when a concept is almost entirely about engagement.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about right now, is the immediate engagement between an audience and a streamer. And who is more attracted to that than folks that own and run managed brands? So they're going to throw the kind of speculative cash at experiments that usually leads to neat things like people luckily not getting hurt in the woods.
I know.
You told me that story, and I thought that the next sentence was, and he died.
No, but no, people were extremely excited. But I probably that if that experiment lasted for a long time, yes, it would have probably led to that, because people are sometimes awful. Even though Twitch Plays Pokemon was able to conclude the game, it's just a very interesting experiment as well. Nicola, what do you think? Some examples of really cool mechanics that you've seen so far?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's really a starting point for what we are doing. We exclusively thinking about collaborative action that we can do together, obviously. And even, for example, and the first one we tried to achieve was the hardest one was how to make a battle so that it's collaborative. Because a pirate game without battles is not a pirate game. And so we challenged ourselves to do that. And in fact, we got inspiration from Overcooked again. And thinking, okay, the boat is like a super version of Overcooked where we need to collaborate. And in fact, the pirate crew is that it's the captain needing to collaborate with all the crew. And so we saw about that, okay, a good boat is a good boat that collaborates well. So we designed the system on purpose to have abilities and obstacles that give you the ways to collaborate and things to do together. For example, in the battle, the captain does not see all the powers that the viewers have. So the captain can maybe boost some part of the ship, say, okay, let's go forward, let's go backward. Everybody moves to the sails, or everybody moves to the cannons. But the captain does not know if what kind of weapon the crew has, what kind of superpowers do they have. And as a viewer, maybe you don't want to do what the captain is asking you to do because you have other purpose. Maybe I'm better in the cannons, so even if the captain has to go to the sails, I should stay in the cannons because I'm better there. I will do more damage and become the VIP. So even the battle, we wanted to design collaborative things. I have another better maybe example there where as a pirate crew, we need a flag, and the painting of the flag is a collaborative painting scene. Everybody paints the flag together in the stream. So sometimes the people are super collaborative, or there are some artists there and they do normal stuff super fast. And sometimes it's a battle of paint because they throw paint on the screen with the mouse.
You have
so we got some.
Let's show the screen. He has an example. Technical team. Yes, there it is. All right, continue, Nicola.
So yeah, on the left is the basic scene where there is a flag, a shape, and everybody can throw paint. And the number of paint dots that you can throw depends on your level in the game. So if you are level 20, you can throw 20 dots. If you are level 100 and you are there, you've been there for a while, you have more paint available, and there is a palette. It's a super simple pixel art thing, but people build some crazy stuff like you can see on the middle.
What the hell?
From there,
I can't believe it. And they're not talking to each other, right? When they do that, they're just like painting?
No. They talk a bit in the chat, but not that much. As you know, the chat is not super nice. But the captain might say, let's draw something, but the audience will draw something else. And that part is like collaborative painting of the flag, and the flag is something that will represent them on the seas or on the battles or on those shared aspects. So it's important, the flag. So that's an example of where there is no gameplay there. It's only social interactions between the audience and or the captain, and sometimes not. Because the captain might ask like for a super nice school, and the audience will draw flowers.
Can I ask you my question that is not safe for work? So people at home, if there's children listening, what?
The TTD is quite low.
Yes. What is the TTD?
Yes, but so it's funny because we've been testing for 8 months, but not large audiences, but every week we test with some private streamers. And I think it's yesterday or the day before we had the first D. But because the communities, they want to do stuff together, they don't want to piece each other, in fact. But yet we gave them moderation tools so that the streamer, they can scramble pixel zones easily with the mouse. Doing that tool, we gave them a tool to identify who drew each pixel. And now they are using the moderation tool to highlight people who drew the best parts, in fact. So a moderation tool became a creative tool or a way to animate the community.
Okay, so it's like a positive reinforcement.
So in fact, the number of Ds is quite low because those communities, like I said, they are there before us. So your community knows you, so they don't want to piece you with stupid stuff on the flag.
Okay, I see. Oh, that's very interesting.
So
actually,
and another example there, where from that scene, suddenly we designed a sub scene which is called the Trial of the Captain, where we share a secret world only with the viewers. The captain and the streamer cannot see the world, and the audience needs to draw the picture to make the captain guess.
Oh, that's kind of like the phone game. Oh my God, Quantic phone, the telephone game with drawing, chat people in the chat. You might know what I'm referring to.
There, you see that the secret world was bubble bass, which is not a simple world, and they managed to the
it's a very good bubble bass.
And so it's So only, and the resolution is super low because we want to make sure that people don't draw too high and stuff. So So see, those scenes are like super collaborative by design, and in fact they evolve quite well as long as you don't give the good tools to the streamers. And their communities are willing to do cool stuff.
Phil just came back. It's a perfect timing because I was getting to you. What are some of your favorite kind of gameplay or mechanics for watchability at the moment?
For me, I think it's the thing I'm interested in is any game where the players who are involved in the game don't have like the best view of the overall picture of what's going on. So I love games where people are so focused on their own tasks or their own little bit that they think that they can like manage the rest of the team. This kind of goes back to what Nicola was saying about the captain of the ship. I like this thing where everyone's busy doing their own little task, but actually like the viewer is the one that has the overall picture of what's going on and can actually participate. I like that as a sort of conceit.
Kind of like multi-Twitch watching a bunch of people playing Among Us, right? The viewer knows everything.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. What were you about to say?
No. Well, I was just going to say that, there's something about that as a sort of germ for an idea that we kind of touched on it a little bit with Overcooked in that there was always this idea that the fifth chef was the head chef, like someone who's watching you play is far better at telling you what you all should be doing because you're screaming at someone like, why aren't you chopping the onions? And, they've got their own thing going on there. And the person, it's this fifth player, this fifth chef, this captain of the ship who can watch and sort of say, look, the reason they can't do that for you is because they're very busy doing X, Y, and Z. And you're not aware of that because you're doing A, B, and C. That's what's interesting me at the moment anyway.
That's really cool. That is extremely cool. So jumping into a kind of a segue with that question, we have Jason De La Roca. You guys might be familiar with him. He's is really important in the game community in Montreal. He's asking, any thoughts on focusing the monetization fully at the spectator level instead of the game player level? And that's very interesting because that's kind of like what you guys were talking about, the subs, just being kind of happy to be there, putting some money in, but integrated with the game.
that's been, I know a number of people have been experimenting with that, with ideas around that for the last few years. I'm not seeing anything really just take off with it. But some of the light research that we were exposed to a few years ago showed that just like viewers in a stream are willing to spend kind of unreasonable amounts of money to see their name in lights, the heat of that audience can lead to, if given the opportunity, to convert a lot of transactions. So I think there absolutely is a free to view space that exists that could actually support that. But I'm not sure how at odds with actual community behavior it might feel. So that if you get in and you realize you have to pay X dollars in order to have an impact, or you're given a free impact to this point and then you hit a hard wall, so much of that experience and the extensions people have been trained to just assume is there for them, that it would require a really amazing amount of value there to, I think, to compel an audience. But it's absolutely shown that if you give them the option to spend money, they will.
I will. Yeah.
So I think we're going to see several experiments emerge with that. And I can't speak to some of them that I got exposed to, but I think we're still learning our way there.
I think that Nicola has a slide ready for us. He like I said, he came prepared. Let's take a look at what you are about to tell us, Nicola.
But the thinking about the way to engage transactions or create transaction, and the way of thinking about it is like thinking meaningful transactions. Because as you said, people who are subbing or gifting, they also do it because they will be featured, but that lasts 5 seconds. Particularly in big streams, it might last 0 seconds. And so the way we are thinking about it, it's more like the tipping at the pub, or pitching a round of beers to everybody. Imagine if I'm on the island and I can suddenly buy a specific ad that is exclusive for that streamer to everybody. I become a super nice viewer. Everybody's happy when I'm there, and I will probably spend a lot of money to do that. So there are opportunities to do meaningful transactions that were not there before because they stay in the game. I mean, if you buy a specific parrot, which is only on your channel, Stephanie, which is a specific color or whatever, but people gave money to you because they want to support your channel. Plus, they got something that they can showcase in other streams. And people asking them like, "Hey, where did you get that parrot?" "Oh, I was at Stephanie's stream last weekend. It was an exclusive item. Sorry, but it's like a kind of super NFT where I'm having it forever." And so that's like a badge of I gave. And plus, I get an item in the game.
So it's like an NFT that doesn't eat the world in our children's dreams. Is that what you're trying to say?
Exactly. So that's the NFT generation too, the real NFTs, yes. But the parrots are a good example where we did parrots for 2 streamers in Europe, and they were exclusive to their stream. So you could only get them on their stream. And for now, we give them for free, but those are prime candidates for like, okay, this could be like 100 bits or maybe 2,000 bits, in fact. Because like you said, people, they want to support their streamer. They are giving a big amounts of money. When you talk with the streamers, and particularly the small communities, like their supporters, they give you sizable amounts of money because they enjoy the show. The way I'm thinking about it, it's like it's like a free theater where you would pay when you go outside, when you leave.
There's a really smart person I used to know had a really great quote about persistence. And I think it applies to this space for viewer spends as well, which is persistence is my ability to affect change that others can witness. And much of the same thing is for streamers and their communities. If I can help X, the streamer that I know, my parasocial relationship has gone up by plus X, and vice versa. It's finding the most positive ways to make those feel natural, community engendering. I love the tipping concept. I like it being something that folks are contributing to rather than being scraped from. But yeah, it's early days.
Yeah, Phil, I don't know how much you heard of that discussion because your internet was a little tipsy.
Yeah.
But do you have any thoughts on that?
On
if you
what?
heard anything. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
Sorry, I'm really sorry.
No. So having monetization being put on the viewers sometimes instead of the actual players, and to support not only the viewers but also the game, not to support the gamer but also the game developers, and releasing sometimes that pressure from the player to spend the money in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that for like smaller scale developers, maybe that it's sort of like a Patreon style thing that you're paying to be part of the experience of the game being built, if that's what we're talking about, or if it's just about the game is finished and it's just a way of kind of saying, I really enjoy this and I want you to make more of these, so I'm personally going to pay a little bit more. I can see that.
It's interesting because you said the game is finished, and this is a thing that we share also. Our game is never finished. Because it's like Disneyland. You know, Disneyland, they would like start the Space Mountain show, and then would add Indiana Jones, and then they would add Star Wars, and then they would add whatever, Avatar, blah, blah, blah. And so same there, it's like a show, in fact, where maybe it will end, or not even end, but maybe after 7 seasons, you get the whole thing. But I mean, 7 seasons, that's a lot of episodes.
And to focus it back, I think the thought would be, if a viewer comes in, here's a title that has no streamer monetization, no traditional monetization. All the monetization comes from the viewer alone. So imagine that somebody comes into a free to view experience. On screen are some actions they could perform. Those actions would then cost them bits, et cetera, for them to be able to do it. They now have a free to play path for a stream only experience. I think that there's room for that. I would like for that title to sustain for a very long period of time. I would like to see the model that would go around it, because that's a really specifically, it could feel really, really grabby in a lot of ways. But there's a title like out there online. There's a title called Salty Bet, which I truly love. And if you're not familiar with Salty Bet, it's just random Mugen fun time, and I'm rooting for Lady McDonald every time she comes up in the queue. But there's a case where our viewers are immediately introduced to a very simple free-to-play system in which they get their fake currency, they bet on the fake fights, they chat about the fake fights, and it's fun forever. I think that we'll absolutely see stuff that tries to exclusively monetize through mechanisms like that, but it'll be fun to see.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm ready. My wallet is ready. I'll be consuming. You know it.
The second that I can drop, someone can drop $5 to have a nuke go off in somebody's fighting game. I think we're gonna, as long as people don't lean too hard into the supervillain enabling, which is what the easiest community enabling you can do, is to give everybody in Lord of the Flies a rock to kill Piggy with, but coming up with non-piggy killing methods of supporting free-to-play motivation for viewers it's an intriguing subject.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are tons of things like us on the screen. There are all the viewers become pirates, so you see like a crew, but our art director was thinking more like a soccer team. And then suddenly, if you think soccer teams, maybe everybody wants to have the same shirt. But to get the same green shirt, it's like the Liverpool team, the green shirt, maybe that's an entry ticket, like you must spend 100 bits, which is not that much, it's less than $1. And suddenly you are part of the team. So it's not something that destroyed the experience, but I bought my ticket and I am in the club now. And so I can move around, etc. So those are things that you can do where people are willing, because they were already spending that dollar as a gift to the stream.
And not to sidetrack too much, but something that can go into that, the number of tools you give viewers and streamers to be involved with each other. One facet of interactive streaming I think we're going to see in our audience are people who do not view, people who do not play, but people who act as crew. And crew are the folks who act as cameramen within the scene, providing the actual stream cameras back to people. Effectively, we're going to see small little media operations with folks acting as virtual switchers, handling content that dedicated viewers are in the scene, providing their on-the-scene cameras for. Forza being manned by actual people would be an interesting race, especially if people logging in to say, oh, they've got our coverage of this. There's a whole bunch of interactive streaming potential that goes beyond viewer and streamer and turns everyone into this content creator core.
Have you guys dove into the GTA RP kind of era where you have people who are just at the burger shop and doing burgers, and then you have like a big million people streamer coming in and buying burgers and creating a moment around that shop? And this whole day, this guy was just waiting at the burger shop for this moment to happen.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you're describing right here.
It's the purest form of kind of, if we had, I mean, and what you're describing is kind of this end game where you have an open world with a LARPing core and media creators within it that are covering and streaming those cores. This is a, we've seen elements like this that people have done individually, like the GTA stuff, all the way back to early MMO behavior for RP servers and more. And that kind of raw play where viewers are actually agreeing to fantasize together, that's supremely fun. Yeah.
Oh, chat told me the game I was thinking about was Gartic Phone. If you ever played it, it's a great icebreaker game, guys, in your Zoom meetings. If you're looking for like a little like Phil, a little beer time around 5 p.m. Gartic Phone. It's really, really easy. Everybody can play it. On that, you guys talked about NFTs. There's a question from Liad. They're asking, can streamers use NFTs to further monetize their replay in addition to their traditional method of making a living? And I've seen this is already happening, by the way. So I've seen a lot of platforms create NFTs out of replay from streamers. But I want to kind of ask the question and kind of steer it towards, what do you guys think about that? About NFTs and potentially kind of like being the buzzwords, obviously, maybe 6 months ago buzzword that everyone is trying to be in.
It is a fascinating explosion that, you know, has been around for a few years. Then last February, March, turned into a legitimate phenomenon with $750 million entering into a cloud that is desperate to turn that into 5, 10, 15 times that amount, which means we're seeing the term NFT being applied to everything. And you know, and frankly, as someone who's been working on MMOs for a very long time, good for the people exploring it. I'm certain that there are ways to monetize around both streamer play, unique moments and events that viewers and streamers create together as minted things that can exist. But I personally have so many more challenges to look forward to before engaging in that. So I'm going to open this to other people who might actually have thoughts.
What do you think about that, Phil?
I mean, I'm just going to echo what Hal's saying. Really, it's not something that interests me. It's an area that's like ethically dubious and not really something it comes into my purview on a day-to-day basis. That's all I have to say, really.
No, that's a valid answer.
And not to deny. I mean, I don't want to get a bunch of people on my case about this stuff, because that's all it's going to happen. But I do want to state that it's evolving. What NFTs are now, how they're actually, all the stuff around it, it's not going to look the same by next February, in a few months. And I look forward to seeing how this shakes out, to see where the tech actually ends up. And if we can come up with decentralized mechanisms for enabling ownership that do not rely upon, you know, shitty ways of doing things. So, but I'm also an ignorant old person who doesn't know shit about dicks. So I'm going to shut up and be quiet on this front, because, you know, it's new. We're figuring it out. And unfortunately, when things are new, the noise that surrounds it can feel a lot grosser than it can feel optimistic. So I've just got to kind of back off until the optimism starts to seep in.
Anything to add on NFTs, Nika?
Yeah, I'm thinking about a lot. We are thinking a lot about that because we are asked a lot about that. There is a lot of noise, like you said. We are thinking already about like what we call generation 2 NFTs, like when the hype curve will have ended. In the end, it's only a technology. And as you said, so the way we are thinking about it is like, what could be the use case there? Because like maybe the early adopters, they are excited about like the new Intel chip or the new PlayStation 6 chips, but people don't buy PlayStation 5 or 6 chips. They buy the PlayStation 5 experience. So it's a technology, same for the blockchain. So it's about what could be the use there. Like for example, us, we have like when you draw the flag, it's something that we author together. We have the list of all the authors. I could mint that and say it's a soft NFT without being on the blockchain, like you said, on an MMO, and it's the same effect for the players. Oh, that's a flag that it's a super limited edition because it's 20 copies only in limited edition.
And that's where this gets interesting, is when we actually have things that are using solutions we've had in place for literally over 20 years to accomplish similar effects.
So it's what the angle is to look at what could be the gain for the audience or the streamer or the whatever, the viewers. But NFT is only a technology. People don't buy technologies. And if you look at, it's quite complicated to understand, plus so nobody understands them apart like the financial aspect, which is another topic. But for games, it's about what could be the use case, what could be the gain, what could it enable that was not possible before. And frankly, like you said, if you look at MMOs, we are looking a lot about on card games. We've been like huge players of Magic the Gathering. Each card is an NFT by itself, and it does not contain any chip. So nothing really super new there. But the use case, that's what should drive it. And we are looking into it, but really on that could be the gain there. And if we try stuff, it will be like same than the rest of the design. Like let's try something there and see how people like use it, if they understand the use there, and even if it's hidden, if it's in an MMO, you're buying the sword, you're not buying the SQL line. It's the same thing, you know. So
I don't own NFTs, but I'm a big card collector person. I love collecting cards in real life, and I started collecting cards online on a website that has gaming cards from streamers and from players. And it's kind of exactly what you said, Nicola. It has like some sort of you don't have to link it to a blockchain. You don't have to for it to become an NFT. There's a possibility if you want it, but most of the users on the sites are using it as is with like a minted number, and you can press on the card and it actually plays a clip that happened in the tournament, immortalized in the card. And I also buy the cards in real life with the same, you know, so I'm really deep in that kind of stuff, but I wouldn't buy the NFT like you said, but I buy the experience of collecting that card and making my connection bigger and having my collection recognized on the site, because you can scan the cards and it gives me points depending on how good they are, and then like there's leaderboards and that kind of stuff, and I'm just like really deep in that kind of things.
And that kind of stuff speaks back to what we were talking about giving viewers that power to know that I have a piece of this world that everyone knows is mine. That's really the critical takeaway for this. Whether or not folks make a living off of the things that they're buying from the games is secondary. It's that sense of ownership in the community and the game and the experience that I'm a big fan of that.
Feeling like you belong. So important, right? In a community. Okay. A little more like I'm gonna zoom out a little bit and talk about things that we're not actively necessarily working on, but things that we like. So for example, Phil, we're gonna start with you. What are your personal favorite? Gretar is asking, what are your personal favorite games to watch other than your own game, obviously? So any game, old school game, good game, recent game. To watch.
I mean, I would say that all I spot is just bugs and things that we should change and things. Oh, we're going to get that in the next patch and all that kind of things. My favorite games to watch. I don't watch. I'm sorry, I don't watch a lot of people playing video games. But actually, that's not true. My favorite games to watch are when I'm doing like a pass the pad horror game. I've really got into I really like the Dark Pictures anthologies. So I really like that as a spectator sport. I think works really well because you've got a lot of people in the room. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's kind of heightened because of the theme of it. I think those kind of games where particularly where you have a really immediate interaction with the person who's playing, and there's a sort of power dynamic there as well.
I like that. Excuse me.
No,
There's a little bit of a lag sometimes that I keep cutting you because I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Phil.
Oh no, I was just going to say that it's when everyone in the room is trying to tell the person who's playing, like, oh, don't go in there, don't go back. You know, that's okay. and you feel that kind of that power dynamic play out. And I've had it before. I remember playing like Heavy Rain and having that experience of somebody being like, okay, it's giving us choices. What are we going to do, team? Are we gonna interrogate this person? Are we going to leave them alone? And everyone in the room's like, leave them alone. And you just can't help but press the shoot button, and everyone goes, oh no, why did you do it? I love that.
Yeah, I'm someone that doesn't play horror games because I'm scared. I'm not scared to say it. I'm so scared. So I'm with you when it comes to watching these. Is way more fun to me than playing them. But you're onto something, that social experiment. Sometimes where we don't want to get too involved, and sometimes you're a parent and you don't want to play. You don't have time to play. You can only watch these stories that become kind of interactive movies somehow. Very, very interesting. Nicola, which one is your personal favorite game to watch?
I don't have a personal, but what I do is watch like personalities and their communities. So I'm switching a lot around. It could be on Twitch or on YouTube, because I'm super curious on the different types of personalities, the sizes of audiences. So it's mostly work, but also the pleasure of discovering totally crazy ways of interacting, and because that gives us so many ideas. So I'm really wandering around. I watch a bit of some shooters I play to try to get better or get updated on what is the latest gear to use, because I don't play that much. So in that sense, I'm more like a classic watcher of like watch to learn. But for the most of the time, I'm watching like crazy streamers and see what they're trying to do, what their communities are, particularly small communities around like 100 to 200 viewers, because those are the most active ones where there is actually an interaction between the streamer and the viewers.
Yeah, because more than that, speaking from experience, I'm not a big streamer anymore, but when I had 500 to 1,000 concurrent viewers, you kind of don't monitor much. It's a little bit out of control, and you just kind of do your own thing. While 100 is manageable, you can actually interact with them, get to know them, and these kind of things. Hal, what's your favorite game to watch?
I'm gonna mirror what was said about horror. Phasmophobia has genuine thrills, and watching people get spooked by it is hilarious. It's hilarious. And there have been a few games over time that have been fun to watch, like Punch Club, etc., that were explicitly made for that, and when it was fresh and exciting. But yeah, I'm pushed to a stream by friends. Usually they're funny or tense. The tension leads to funniness. It's like the song lyric about people. I can't even get to the lyric. But people under pressure know they're under pressure and know people are watching them, are having fun with it, are some of the best people to watch, which is why we have Phil here, which is great. So yeah, it's those are usually the ones that I lean into. I must admit that I live vicariously through lead designer of one of our streaming titles, Super Fight, a guy named Amor Estandian, who streams regularly on Twitch to get most of what I should be looking at the moment. But yeah, Phasmophobia is the one that recently made me guffaw and stare.
Okay, you're going to be also starting the next question. Karim is asking the opposite. Can you think of a game that is absolutely not enjoyable when you watch it?
I think that's a tough one, right? Because everyone's different. Everyone likes, some people like watching paint. Some people literally like watching paint dry. Some people will watch someone play the hardest levels of PC Simulator. Right on. That's cool. Some people might watch a SimCity setup go from 0 to 100. Some people might find that horrible. But I don't believe it. If you just have to look at Twitch to see that there's not a single concept that can't draw an audience. So I think I think it's tough to actually point the finger. I think that what you can point the finger at are maybe experiences that are more individually, internally thoughtful, where that thought doesn't express itself in moment-to-moment action or have that responsive feedback. But genuinely, that's a stretch for me to say.
Mm-hmm. Is that how you feel, Nika?
Yeah, if you look at Twitch, anything goes and anything can become suddenly. Look at Twitch plays Pokemon. Makes absolutely no sense.
The Street Fighter fighting fish were my favorite.
Yeah, it's like, that's the beauty of those platforms, is that anything can be tried, and it could stay super niche. And actually, some games are well played and they are not streamed. In fact, some people are looking at Twitch like, okay, the top stream games, but there are many games that are super successful and played a lot that are rarely streamed for whatever reason, because they look like the same than the top 10. And so it's not necessarily a good indicator of the success of a game, in fact. It's a success of a community. It's a success
Dota.
of
like Dota 2 is not streamed a lot if you compare it to other like successful esports, but it's one of the most played game in the world. That's a very good point.
So there is not necessarily a correlation there between those two things.
Phil, can you think of a game you don't like to watch?
I have three.
Let's go.
They're not specific games though. So I'd say number one is any game that you have made yourself. Like when you're playtesting a game, that is the most excruciating experience of my life, is when you're sat down and you're watching playtesters and they are failing horribly to do the thing that was really obvious for you and your developers to do first time. That is like pulling teeth, and you have to sit there chewing on your fist because you can't intervene. The second one I would say is when you're trying to watch a stream of a game because you have a very specific like reference you want to see. So if you're like, I really want to see what the textures are like in that part of the game, so you boot up a YouTube video and the camera's doing everything but look at the thing you want it to, and you're scrubbing through it frantically for 3 hours. That's number two. I hate that. And then number three is just crosswords. If you've ever tried to watch someone do a crossword, and shivers. I mean, if they're good at it, great. But like if you get the clue before they do and you just have to watch them getting it wrong over and over again. Ugh.
Oh my God, I've never watched that. And I play a lot of crosswords. Okay, I have to try it out. That is awesome. That is so cool. I like how it's very specific to your
yeah, sorry, those aren't for like
no, I love it.
But try make your own game and watch someone play it. It's
oh no, I tried that. I tried that
a million times. I don't have enough ink in the world to underscore that statement.
Yes. For me, one thing that I think is interesting, we haven't talked about esports at all right now today, and obviously it's a little bit my specialty, but we won't get into it because there's not a lot of time yet, and I think that's opening a Pandora box. But one thing for me, I think some esports are not well taught for watchability. They obviously are taught about gameplay first, which was, I think, maybe a 10-year ago, kind of designing for esports mentality. And so you have games like, I'm gonna say it, League of Legends or Overwatch, and even Dota, where they are extremely complex games, and without the casters and without someone, the commentators, to actually kind of dumb it down or explain the concepts and whatnot, I think they're really not fun to watch. For me, especially if I don't play them, I wouldn't understand. Like, I've watched hundreds of League of Legends games and I still wouldn't understand much if it wasn't for someone telling me what's going on and kind of dissecting why this was an important moment in the game. Because that frustrates me as a professional player, not to understand the little subtleties of why this team did something great. Why are people exciting in the chat? I don't get it. Like, I need someone to kind of bring it to me. And I think that Overwatch is like the ultimate that. You can understand the game and play and love it, and you still don't, like, can't really like, there's 12 players running around, going around in circle, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? So I wanted to add that a little bit for the esports experience. And I hope that in the future we'll see more games like Rocket League, or games that are a little more intuitive on the viewer experience, but that can still scale to esports experience without having like crazy commentators that are doing that, that are supporting gameplay. Yeah.
Amen.
Okay. There's one question that I want to bring before we kind of talk about the future. So let's try to make it quick so we can get at least 5 minutes for the future of watchability. But Rosemary is from Red Bell is asking, do you check out different Twitch extension or even Twitch drops as a mean to increase engagement for your community, or have you ever assessed those to add them as a part of your game development and process? And I think that's very interesting because there's a world where you say, let's just copy that extension and put it right away in our game. And there's a world where you leave that open to kind of the community create their extensions and kind of plug it in your game. I feel that's something that Nicola, you probably have thought of. So I kind of want to throw the ball at you.
Yeah. Okay. Us, we think completely different because the extension is the game for the viewers. So there is no like, but yeah, there are some super interesting extensions that, like for example, if you are watching like a Dota or a game of Magic, there are overlay extensions where you can roll over the cards or the characters and get augmented information, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot. But yeah, for us, it's really we embrace that because the extension is part of the game. The game is like a game executable that we give to the streamer that they stream like a regular game. That game connects to a server that connects to all the extensions of all the viewers that who install the extension. So it's a 3-part thing, and but the extension is the game. So we embrace the whole thing, in fact.
Yeah, that answers the question pretty much. What about you, Phil?
No, it's not something I think about all that much. I feel bad, and maybe I should. I'm going to go away from this talk and do my homework. But it's not something that comes into my mind, really. I have to admit.
That's totally fine too. Al, you seem like you wanted to add something.
Just that, extensions are great. Making them invisible, making them feel seamless is what's critical, not making them feel like a bolted on part of the experience. Extensions, drops, etc. Really powerful ways to drops provide motives for folks to engage, and then extensions provide that clear way for them to do the engaging. So with GenVid Technologies, the folks we've been working with on stuff, they built their entire layer that's essentially equivalent to what Nicholas is doing. So it's an entire extension suite. That is the experience. The game is running headless on AWS and served to indefinite number of people that can receive the stream with that HTML5 layer on top driving everything. And it's great. We're to the point now where that, with the exception of that up and down time, it's a pretty seamless experience.
I love that too. Oh my God, it's 2:27 on the East Coast. We have a couple of minutes left. I know that there's nothing starting right at 3:30, but I want to 2:30. But I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. There's one new question that I think is so cool. Do you think streaming people from Jeremy? Do you think that streaming people developing games should be a thing? I think it's such a cool question.
Okay, 30 seconds. It's yes and no. It's content creators. It's mostly only 5% or 7% of people in any activity. So yes, and there are many companies trying to give tools to the streamers to build games. Frankly, that's not our approach because streamers, they already have like a job, a life, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a cat, a dog, or whatever, a collection of cards. So we are more thinking about like, can we give them tools to assemble an experience, to assemble like a theater, a show, and as seamless for them as possible, same thing. In fact, we spend a lot of time streamlining the experience for the streamers so that they don't feel that they are working. So that's how we are looking at it. Some companies are doing like creating games. I'm not sure that of the size really of the audience there. And frankly, when the streamers are using a modified version of GTA to play GTA RP, they are already doing it.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
Phil, would you stream yourself creating the next over?
You mean streaming yourself creating a game?
Well, yeah, any answer is valid.
Some people are doing that, but that's another category. It's a niche of developers streaming the game creation in Unreal Engine. That's another category.
Would you
I
do
think
it, Phil?
only if I could edit it, because I feel like so much of my job is probably far too boring for anyone to get anything out.
Exactly, like
Watching me
saving,
wait for
copying,
light bakes,
submitting.
yeah. Nobody needs to see
The
that.
engine crashing, reopening, losing 2 hours, redoing the whole thing
Yes,
over.
yeah. It might be quite interesting. Yeah, I think I quite like the idea of there being like a camera that you can just watch, and that you can go into a development office and see them what they're doing day to day. But in the same way that it would be quite interesting to have a camera pointed at a bird's nest or something, because
Yeah,
maybe once every day something interesting happens. I don't know.
a little bit of a reality show that you don't have to edit anything of the footage.
Yeah. If people want to watch it, I have no problem with it, but I don't think they will.
I don't know if you had anything to add, but I think we're about to close. One thing, the future of watchability games, real quick, and where you think it's gonna go, and kind of say your adieu after that. Let's start with you, Al.
Beyond Twitch, in N years, you'll pop open Netflix or Hulu or your streaming provider of choice, and they will have an array of watch it at your leisure interactive content and event-based scheduled time and date content, coupled with a bunch of adjuncts. So it's going to become a ubiquitous scene over the next 10 to 20, I believe.
I'm here for it. I want to experience that. This is going to be amazing for our children in the next generation, even though there's going to be some rough patch, I think, like you said, with the advertisement and then our brain never disconnecting and all that kind of stuff. Once we find the balance, I'm here for it. Nicola.
Yeah, us, we see like same kind of ideas. We see like you arriving to whatever streaming platforms, and there is a matrix of worlds which are in fact shows that streamers are doing, and you can join whichever you want with your characters, or go there to interact or watch. And look, so suddenly Twitch becomes the world server browser, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And then you come out of it, and then go to YouTube, and then go to Meta, and and all of a sudden it's like, was it WALL-E? That movie where all the humans were on chairs. They all look the same. Phil, future of watchability.
I think the future is going to be all of planet Earth playing a cooperative game projected on the moon. That's where we're going.
Horribly, it ends up being Simon, which is it's the end of civilization at that point, as we're all too depressed to play.
I love it. I loved it. Why not? Why not? Damn, you just blew my mind. This is definitely happening at some point. This is definitely happening. Guys, it was such a pleasure to be the host. It was not only extremely insightful, but also I feel like motivated to create in concept. Chat seemed like they loved it. I personally loved it. Where can we follow you if you are present on any social media? Al.
Oh, my name's Hal Milton. I exist. You can find me in places. I mainly like working at my studio quietly. But yeah, I probably have said embarrassing things around the internet.
You did not. They're great. They're part of why you're here. Nicola.
But instantly we are doing some demos this week. So this week, join us. I think it's on Wednesday, the 10th and the 12th. We are doing open demos on Twitch, so you can join us on Twitch. The channel will be Sea Raiders Game.
Yes, I'll try to join.
Everybody can join as long as you have a browser, Chrome, Firefox, PC, Mac, Linux, whatever. You can join.
I want my little parrot, right? Little bird.
You will get it.
Yes. Phil.
So we're a little heads down at the minute, but you can find me on Twitter, or my email, I think, is on the website, ghosttowngames.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Go check it out. They're working on a secret project you couldn't talk about, but it's going to be amazing. And myself at Miss Harvey everywhere. I do a lot of things. So just pick your favorite social media. I'm probably there. Again, it was a pleasure to have you three. Such a motivating talk. The MEGAMIGS continues. I think they're on for a little bit of a break, but in about 20 minutes, come back and there will be another session for you guys to enjoy. Have a great Tuesday wherever you are in the world, and hopefully we get to see each other another time in real life. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Bye.